Chapter 18 is the cross, subversion, and grace. And I try and show a tiny fraction of just how incredibly disruptive the cross is of so many ways in which our modern society thinks reality works. And I do really feel that in this chapter, I'm only scratching the surface of the way in which the cross just blows up so many assumptions and rearranges so many paradigms of ourselves and society and the world. And I just try and pick a few of them out and talk about them inevitably briefly in this chapter. We really are at the heart of Christian cultural critique, I think, with the cross. It's ever since Genesis 1 verse 1, really, isn't it? God created the heavens and the earth, and then we focus on the earth. So we've been narrowing in ever since that moment. Let's leave the heavens for a moment. Let's focus on the earth. Then we narrow down to Abraham. We narrow down through Moses. We narrow down through David and so forth. We narrow down to Jesus, and then we get to this one pinprick of history, where on one calendar day, as Francis Schaeffer was fond of saying, one man hangs in agony on a cross, and it goes dark and so forth. And the whole of history and the whole of cultural critique, I think, is concentrated into this one essential moment. And I'm just sorry that I can't do justice to it. It's going to take many more people thinking in many more ways to be able to begin to plumb the depths of just what the cross does to our assumptions. But my two penneth of contribution to that in this chapter is, I draw on Miroslav Volf and what he says in Exclusion and Embrace about how the cross interrupts the cycle of violence and subverts the logic of vengeance, but not in a weak way, in actually a very powerful gesture, how Jesus breaks the cycle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and how that is a paradigm of human peacemaking, and something, not something to copy, but something to draw on and point to as having happened, as a way of bringing peace. I talk about Tim Keller's term, the grace narrative, and how the cross makes us rethink social relations. Keller, I think it's in The Reason for God, has this powder keg of a chapter where he talks about the way that everybody draws lines. There's always in-groups and out-groups. It's the good liberals against the bad conservatives, or the other way around, or it's the good enlightened people against the bad superstitious people. And we all draw lines, and we all look down on other people, and even to the extent of the good people don't draw lines, and all the bad people out there who draw lines and look down on people and so forth. And he says you can't avoid it, and Christians don't avoid it as well. There's the line between those who come humbly to Christ to be saved and those who don't. But he says the difference is that the Christian line predisposes you not to look down on people on the other side of your line. So if I've come to God by grace through no merit of my own and have been saved through trusting in his cross and resurrection, that doesn't make me more intelligent or necessarily less superstitious or cleverer or more successful than anyone else. So I've got no basis upon which to look down on other people. So grace isn't just one more line, but it's the subversion of the perniciousness of line drawing itself. And I try and draw out some examples of that for the way that society is structured today and the different factions in it, and how Christians might minister into that particularly pernicious polarization of views that we're seeing perhaps increasing in contemporary society.